This is how Paul Poncella learned to carve.
There, I'm getting it. By golly, we're going to have an eagle any time.
Scraping at stones until they turn into carvings. He needs a guide dog to get around, but he needs no help to see the shapes of animals in rock.
I've had people who come to me and say, I'd like you to make a bear out of this stone right here. And I'll look at it and I'll say, I'm sorry, but it can't be a bear. It can be a muskox.
Poncella couldn't always see so well with his hands. It was a carving that made him realize how well his brain had adapted.
After I lost vision, I went to an art exhibit one time with some stone sculptures, and I found real quickly that what I touched with my hands, that stone sculpture I touched with my hands, I went, wow, it looked just like it did when I could see it.
His growing interest in Inuit sculpture brought him to Canada, and he started learning from carvers across the north. This eagle is one of his early efforts. It took him 100 hours to smooth the bird out of the rock.
When I touch this eagle over here, I'm seeing exactly the same thing you're seeing, except the color. Obviously, I can't interpret with the color, but every other detail of that stone, I see exactly the same way you see it. I am seeing it.
Now he's teaching blind students in Bechico how to see carvings with their hands and how to carve confidence out of stone. Julia Sisler, CBC News, Yellowknife. Christine Barker used to live in transitional housing at the Rock Hill Apartments. She works a full-time job, but she spent about half her wages on housing.
One check would go to rent and the other check would go to childcare, and then I didn't know how we were going to eat.
Barker got lucky. She just qualified for public housing. But Minister Robert MacLeod says that's not possible for about 600 working poor in Yellowknife and more across the NWT.
And they make too much maybe to qualify for public housing, so they're kind of stuck in the middle, and we see this as a program that's obviously going to help them get into the next step.
The program will provide up to $500 a month for up to 2 years. It's meant for people with lower incomes who spend a big chunk of their salary on rent. The program currently has $1 million in funding, and MacLeod says he expects that will help about 200 renters. But that won't help all the 600 people in need in Yellowknife alone. Nor would it apply to people in transitional housing, like the Rock Hill Apartments.
Even though they're working, even though they're overspending on rent, they're paying rent to us. It's an affordable rent, but it's still a big chunk of their income. We're really disappointed that they don't qualify.
MacLeod says these families already get help with their housing costs, but most pay rent. A 2-bedroom unit at Rock Hill costs about $260 less per month than the average market price. Green also worries that the money goes to the landlord, not the tenant.
There is a concern that the private landlords will increase their rents because they can, because they're a near monopoly, and that families will not see the full benefit.
The minister says the Housing Corporation will reevaluate the program after a year. Julia Sisler, CBC News, Yellowknife.